The Octagon, a proving ground where legends are forged and dreams are shattered. In 2012, a young woman from California, armed with an Olympic bronze medal and an unbreakable will, stepped into that cage and changed the game forever. Ronda Rousey. The name alone evokes a tidal wave of memories. Armbars that snapped opponents' spirits, a swagger that silenced doubters, and a legacy that rewrote the rules of mixed martial arts. She wasn't just a fighter. She was a revolution. But revolutions fade. The roar of the crowd dims. And for Ronda Rousey, the last echo of her UFC glory came in 2016, when the bright lights of the Octagon turned cold. 2 devastating knockouts. A career paused. A life redirected. Now, nearly a decade later, the MMA world hums with whispers of a comeback. A historic UFC event at the White House in 2026. The stage is set for a spectacle unlike any other. Could the queen of women's MMA return to reclaim her throne? Or has the curtain already fallen on her fighting days? Ronda Rousey's story begins far from the glitz of Las Vegas or the grandeur of a White House lawn. Born in Riverside, California, she was a judo prodigy, molded by a mother who was herself a world champion. By 17, Rousey was competing at the Athens Olympics, the youngest judoka in the field. 4 years later, in Beijing, she claimed bronze, etching her name in history as the first American woman to medal in judo. But the mat wasn't enough. She craved something rawer, something fiercer. Mixed martial arts called. In 2011, the UFC was a man's world. Dana White, the brash president of the promotion, famously declared women would never fight under his banner. Too brutal, too niche, too risky. But Rousey didn't care about his words. She cared about proving them wrong. In Strikeforce, a rival promotion, she tore through opponents with a ruthless efficiency. Her signature armbar became a guillotine, locking in submissions faster than fans could blink. 6 fights, 6 wins, all by armbar. The MMA world took notice. So did Dana White. By late 2012, the UFC came knocking. The acquisition of Strikeforce brought Rousey into the fold, and at UFC 157 in February 2013, she made history. Facing Liz Carmouche, she defended her bantamweight title in front of a roaring Anaheim crowd. The fight was a war. Carmouche nearly locked in a choke, but Rousey's armbar prevailed in the first round. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Women belonged in the UFC, and Ronda Rousey was their champion. What followed was a reign of dominance rarely seen in combat sports. 6 title defenses, 6 finishes. Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, Alexis Davis, all fell to her unrelenting pressure. Her fights weren't just victories, they were performances. 14 seconds to submit Kat Zingano, 34 seconds to knock out Beta Correa. The world couldn't look away. She was on magazine covers, in Hollywood blockbusters, hosting talk shows. Ronda Rousey wasn't just a fighter, she was a cultural force. But empires crumble. At UFC 193 in Melbourne, Australia, 56,000 fans packed Etihad Stadium to witness what many thought would be another Rousey rout. Her opponent, Holly Holm, was a decorated boxer with crisp technique and a game plan built on patience. Rousey charged forward, as always, relentless and fearless. But Holm was a puzzle she couldn't solve. A jab here, a sidestep there, and then, in the second round, a head kick that shook the world. Rousey collapsed, her undefeated aura shattered. The knockout wasn't just a loss, it was a seismic shift in MMA. She vanished from the Octagon for a year. The media swirled with questions. Could she recover? Would she return? In December 2016, at UFC 207, she stepped back into the cage to face Amanda Nunes, a rising star with dynamite in her fists. The fight was over in 48 seconds. Nunes' punches were surgical, relentless, and Rousey had no answer. The referee waved it off as the crowd sat in stunned silence. At 29, Ronda Rousey walked away from the UFC, her legacy both immortal and incomplete. The years that followed were a reinvention. She traded the Octagon for the squared circle, signing with WWE in 2018. Her wrestling career was no less historic. At WrestleMania 34, she teamed with Kurt Angle to defeat Triple H and Stephanie McMahon in a match that stole the show. A year later, she main event WrestleMania 35 alongside Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, the first women's match to close the biggest wrestling event in the world. But the grind of professional wrestling, the creative frustrations, and the weight of expectations took their toll. By 2023, after a final match against Shayna Baszler, Rousey left WWE, her fire for combat sports seemingly extinguished. Life outside the cage brought new chapters. Motherhood became her focus. In 2021, she welcomed her first daughter, La Kia, with husband and former UFC fighter Travis Brown. In January 2025, their second daughter, Likaula, arrived. Social media showed a softer side of Rousey, training to stay fit, not to fight, and sharing moments with her growing family. But the MMA world never stopped watching. Every judo throw she posted, every training clip, sparked the same question: could Ronda Rousey come back? The speculation reached a fever pitch in 2025. The UFC announced a groundbreaking event, a fight card on the White House lawn in June 2026, timed to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. Dana White, now a seasoned promoter with a knack for spectacle, called it the biggest event in UFC history. Names like Conor McGregor and Jon Jones were floated as headliners. But one name kept surfacing: Ronda Rousey. Fans saw her training videos, heard whispers of a potential super fight against bantamweight champion Kayla Harrison, a fellow judoka and Olympic gold medalist. The narrative was irresistible: a clash of generations, a chance for redemption, all on the grandest stage imaginable. The rumors weren't baseless. In July 2025, UFC bantamweight Luana Santos posted a photo and video of herself training with Rousey, calling her an inspiration. The MMA community erupted. Was this a sign? Chael Sonnen, a former UFC star turned analyst, fanned the flames on his YouTube channel, claiming the buzz came straight from Rousey's camp. A matchup with Harrison made sense on paper. Both women shared a judo background, even rooming together during their Olympic days. Harrison, now a dominant force at 135 pounds, represented the evolution of women's MMA, a challenge Rousey could either conquer or crumble against. But the whispers of a comeback weren't new. In 2024, similar talks swirled around UFC 300, a milestone event that begged for a big name. Dana White shut it down, stating flatly, "Ronda's not coming back." Fans didn't listen. They saw her training, heard her speak about fitness, and dreamed of a return. Yet Rousey herself had been candid about her limits. In interviews, she revealed a history of concussions, admitting she was not neurologically fit to compete at the highest level. The knockouts against Holm and Nunes weren't just losses, they were warnings. Her body had paid a price for her dominance. Still, the White House event was different. It wasn't just a fight card, it was a cultural moment. President Donald Trump, a longtime UFC supporter, had personally backed the event, meeting with Dana White to hammer out details. The card promised to be a showcase of the sport's biggest stars, a blend of legacy fighters and new blood. For fans, Rousey's return would be the ultimate coup, a chance to see the woman who built women's MMA step back into the spotlight. Social media buzzed with opinions. Some fans called it a pipe dream, pointing to her age, 38 by 2026, and her long layoff. Others argued her star power and judo pedigree could still carry her to a win, especially in a carefully chosen matchup. Then, on the Lapsed Fan podcast, Rousey spoke. Her words were vintage rowdy, blunt, unfiltered, and final. "I am not fighting at the White House," she said, her voice cutting through the speculation like a blade. She referenced Mike Tyson's ill-fated boxing return against Jake Paul, a reminder that comebacks don't always end in glory. After Mike Tyson being the biggest fight of the year, "You never say never," she admitted, leaving a sliver of hope for the future. But for the White House, "I ain't fighting at the White House." The host pressed her, "What if Dana White himself called, offering a massive payday?" Rousey didn't hesitate. "Even if offered, I got better to do. My kid needs pasta." The line landed like a knockout punch, equal parts humor and defiance. Fans on social media erupted, some laughing at her candor, others disappointed that the dream of a White House comeback was dead. The clip went viral, shared across platforms, with fans praising her for prioritizing family over fame. "Ronda's done fighting for us," one user wrote. "She's fighting for her kids now." Rousey's reasoning wasn't just about motherhood, though. Her health concerns loomed large. Years of judo and MMA had taken a toll: concussions, injuries, and the mental strain of being a trailblazer. She'd spoken openly about her struggles, from the pressure of being the UFC's first female star to the backlash she faced after her losses. Her 2015 autobiography, My Fight / Your Fight, detailed the physical and emotional scars of her career. The knockouts by Holm and Nunes weren't just defeats, they were wake-up calls. She'd pushed her body to the limit, and it was time to step back. Her post-MMA life reflected that shift. Beyond wrestling, Rousey explored creative outlets. In October 2025, she released a graphic novel, Expecting the Unexpected, a project she poured her heart into. She spoke about it with the same passion she once reserved for fighting, describing it as a way to tell stories without breaking her body. Her training clips, once seen as hints of a comeback, were reframed as personal triumphs, staying fit after 2 pregnancies, reclaiming her strength for herself, not the octagon. The UFC White House card will go on without her. The event, now set for June 2026 after logistical tweaks, promises to be a landmark moment for the sport. Fighters like Sean O'Malley, Islam Makhachev, and Valentina Shevchenko are rumored to be in the mix, each vying for a spot on the historic card. Kayla Harrison, the reigning bantamweight champion, remains a focal point. Her judo-heavy style and Olympic pedigree draw inevitable comparisons to Rousey, but she's carved her own path, blending grappling with a newfound striking prowess. A fight between her and Rousey would have been a masterclass in transitions, takedowns, and submission attempts, a chess match on the ground. But it's a fantasy fight now, one fans can only imagine. The MMA landscape has changed since Rousey's heyday. Women's divisions are deeper, more competitive. Fighters like Amanda Nunes, who ended Rousey's career, and Zhang Weili have pushed the sport forward, building on the foundation Rousey laid. The bantamweight division, once her kingdom, now sees contenders like Merab Dvalishvili and Raquel Pennington trading leather for supremacy. The UFC's $7.7 billion deal with Paramount, inked in 2025, signals a new era of global expansion, with events in Saudi Arabia, Shanghai, and now the White House. Rousey's absence from the card doesn't diminish its shine. It underscores how far the sport has come, yet her shadow lingers. She's the pioneer who forced Dana White to eat his words, the fighter who made women's MMA a headline act. Her 6 title defenses, her 12-2 record, her induction into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2018, all are testaments to her impact. Fans still debate her legacy. Some call her overrated, pointing to her losses and her struggles against strikers. Others see her as untouchable, a once-in-a-generation talent who carried a sport on her shoulders. The truth lies in between. A fighter who was both invincible and human, dominant yet vulnerable. Rousey's story isn't about a comeback anymore. It's about choice. She's chosen her daughters, her health, her peace. The White House event will be a spectacle, a celebration of MMA's growth, but it won't feature the woman who started it all. Her viral quip about pasta and priorities resonated because it was real. No hype, no pretense, just Ronda being Ronda. The octagon made her a legend, but life outside it has made her whole. As the UFC prepares for its historic night in Washington, D.C., the spotlight will shine on new heroes. The cage door will close, the crowd will roar, and the fights will begin. But somewhere, far from the chaos, Ronda Rousey will be at home,